Hello friends, here we are. My name is Sunshine Beck and I'm here today on Kardec Radio to inform you about the origins of Spiritism. The last two presentations, which are all based on the book Spiritism 101, which can be obtained on different websites. The first two presentations were on a different page, on a different Facebook page, Divine Light Spiritist page. If you like, you can retrieve them right there. The first two times we talked about the three basic principles of Spiritism, namely the philosophical, the scientific, and the religious aspect, and about the 5 principles of Spiritism, which is we are recognizing that there is a God, that we are spirits, immortal spirits. We're going through many lifetimes, which is called reincarnation. We also recognize that there are life forms in all planets out in the universe, and that we are going through these lifetimes to perfect ourselves, and we are able to communicate with the spirits through mediums. So then last time we talked about the 3 revelations. The first revelation was Moses, the second revelation, Jesus, and the third one, Spiritism. And again, you can refer to the other presentations from the last 2 weeks. And today we're talking about the very first beginnings of Spiritism. Now let us keep in mind that the actual information that is being distributed via Spiritism is really nothing new. It is all based on Jesus' teachings and further explained and additional information that Jesus wasn't able to bring to the people at his times because of their consciousness level that we are now receiving from spirits on high through Spiritism. But the first phenomena, again, were here in Hydesville, New York, right in the United States. In a small village in the United States called Hydesville, a series of paranormal phenomena happened, drawing much attention. It was the year 1848 at the house where the Fox family was living. A certain night, noises and rappings were heard on the walls from everywhere. Overcome by fear, the Fox girls could not sleep and went to their parents' room, but the noises continued. Frightened, one of the girls had the idea to clap to communicate, establishing 1 clap for yes and 2 claps for no. They found out that a spirit was making the noises, and he said that he was a salesperson who was murdered in that same house years before the older owners. The girls gained fame with the incident and reaped the phenomena in several places in America. Who was that spirit? He was a peddler named Charles Rosmer. Before the house was sold to the Fox family, the tenant that lived there murdered Rosmer. The corpse was hidden in a false wall. How did the spirits speak? At first, they communicated through rappings. One more time, 1 for yes and 2 for no. Afterwards, an alphabet was created in which each letter would correspond to a certain number of raps. 1 for A, 2 for B, 3 for C, and so on. So who was the Fox family? It was a family consisting of father, mother, and 3 daughters. Their names were Margaret, Kate, and Leah. They were Methodists, and because of that, they initially believed that the raps were produced by the devil and not a spirit. Because of the importance of these phenomena and the curiosity of people, the Fox family had to move eventually to New York City in order to continue with the public meetings. So around the same time, remember the Hydesville phenomena in the state of New York was around 1848. Now, around 1850 to around 1855, a phenomena occurred in Europe. It's called the turning tables. So around the same time as the Fox sisters phenomena appeared in the US, the turning tables popped up in Europe. The phenomena called turning tables was practiced, obviously, with tables, and these tables had 3 legs. People put their hands on their surface or stood around the table waiting for them to move. At the time, the phenomena was seen as a form of entertainment during meetings of the high society in Europe, mainly in France. We're talking of a phenomena that occurred between the years, again, 1850 to 1855, when it caught the attention of a French pedagogue who would later be known as Allan Kardec. He studied the movements produced by the table and found out that they were caused by spirits. How were the tables made? Let's picture them. They were simple. They had a base and 3 legs. The interesting thing was the tables not only stood on 1 leg, but they also moved in all directions. So what I did is, even though I'm not a painter or a drawer, I tried to put this on a piece of paper for you to picture this table a little bit more. I hope you can see it. This is about the way these tables looked. Several members of the Parisian Society participated in these sessions. Then there were also the planchettes. They were a kind of board with some wheels underneath and a pen inserted in the front. Participants put their hands on it. Thus, they obtained movements that would form words and phrases. At first, this was how they communicated with the spirits. Again, I tried to draw for you a planchette. So you see, this is the actual planchette. There were wheels on both sides and a pen inserted into it. And people put their hands on top of the surface, and then the planchette would be moving and the pen would start produce writings. Allan Kardec was a very respected teacher with extensive knowledge in various sciences. He was surprised at the level of responses received from the turning tables. The phenomena happened because of mediums, of course. Initially, the spirits used the movements of the tables to communicate. Then they used a board with wheels on which was placed a pen in the middle, and with the hand of the mediums, the automatic writing occurred. And that was through the planchette. Did Allan Kardec talk with the tables? Yes, in 1854. Allan Kardec was invited by a friend by the name of Mr. Fortier to watch the movement of the tables that happened in his house. Allan Kardec, as a researcher, participated in meetings of turning tables consecutively. He observes and notes that they actually moved. After several meetings, Allan Kardec asks, "How can a table think without a brain and feel without having nerves?" And the table replies, "It is not the table that responds, but the souls of people who had lived on earth that uses the table to communicate." Aha, here we go. This is the first breakthrough. So once again, the answer was, it's not the table that moves, but the souls of people who had lived on earth that move this table through mediums. From this phenomena of turning tables, Allan Kardec started his serious research regarding communications with the spirits. Let's look at Allan Kardec for a moment. Who was this man? Allan Kardec was born in 1804 and he died in 1869 at the age of 64. He was a Frenchman, and his original name was, and I'm trying to pronounce it correctly, Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rival. And his pen name, which he later on assumed, was Allan Kardec. Allan Kardec was an educator, a writer, and French translator. He lived between the years 1804 and 1869, at the time of Napoleon Bonaparte. He was well known and respected because he had been a student and disciple of Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi, one of the greatest teachers in Europe at the time. At the age of 11, Kardec went to study in Switzerland at the Institute of Education of Yverdon, which was the best school at this time. And again, his name was not Allan Kardec at the time. He was a student of the famous teacher Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi, and he became his disciple and collaborator. Pestalozzi taught his students that the most important thing in school was not only to receive ordinary education, but also moral education, made up of spiritual values. This would transform human beings in righteous beings. So as we can see, Pestalozzi was way ahead of his times, and Kardec was fortunate enough to be a student of his. In Paris, he had contact with various mediums and researched the communication with spirits. He realized that there was a spiritual world which consisted of intelligent beings and is invisible to our eyes. These beings were spirits. They explained that there was life after death, that the important thing is to do good, to practice charity, and that we will live as many times as necessary to become beings of light. Allan Kardec gathered this set of ideas and codified them in several books. He coined the word Spiritism, and because of that, he became known as the codifier of Spiritism. So for a moment, I want to move over to the Spirits book, which was Allan Kardec's first book, Spirits book. And in the introduction, we find the following, which is really the explanation why Allan Kardec came up and felt the need to create a new term to describe Spiritism, which we now know as Spiritism. So here's what he says in his introduction of the Spirits book. When new matters arise, new words are needed for the sake of clarity of language, in order to avoid the confusion inherent in multiple meanings for the same terms. For example, the words spiritual, spiritualist, and spiritualism each have a well-defined meaning. To give each of them a new meaning in order to apply it to the Spiritist doctrine would be to multiply the already numerous causes of our ambiguity. Strictly speaking, spiritualism is the opposite of materialism, and everyone who believes there is something within them that is more than matter are spiritualists. However, it does not necessarily follow that they must therefore believe in the existence of spirits or in communications with the invisible world. Therefore, instead of the words spiritual and spiritualism, for designating this latter belief, we have coined and employed the words spiritist and spiritism. These two terms reflect their origin and their fundamental meaning, and they thus have the advantage of being perfectly understandable. We will leave spiritualism to its own meaning. Hence, we will say that the principle of the Spiritist doctrine or Spiritism is based on the relationship between the material world and the invisible world, the latter being inhabited by beings known as spirits. The adherents of Spiritism will be called Spiritists. I hope that helps a little bit for everyone to understand why Allan Kardec felt the need to coin a new term. So what was the mission of Allan Kardec now? He gives birth to Spiritism, a set of teachings that demonstrates that we are immortal beings who are evolving as spirits for thousands of years until we get to the condition of pure spirits by our own efforts. With this, Spiritism answers the perennial questions of humankind, which are: who are we, where are we coming from, and where are we going after this lifetime? What was the work of Allan Kardec? Allan Kardec wrote several books. The main ones, and the first one was the Spirits book. The second one, I want to add, the Spirits book consists of 1,019 questions that he asked the spirit world, the spirits on high, and they were all coming through teenage mediums which he employed at his time. He used teenage mediums as the conduit between the material and the spiritual world because he believed it would prove best that the materials, the information that came from the spirit world was untampered, since the teenage mediums would not possibly have known the answers to the questions he asked. So he felt it was the purest approach to get the information and prove to mankind that the answers were correct. So the first book, he codified a total of 5 books. So the first one is the Spirits book, 1,019 questions. The second one is the Mediums book, which explains all the ins and outs of mediumships, all the different types of mediums, and more. The third book is the Gospel according to Spiritism, which explains Jesus' gospel with the help of high-level spirits interpreting the sections that we find in the Bible, in the Gospel. The fourth book is Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell explains the old principles of what is heaven and what is hell, and kind of busts the myth that there are eternal places where we go, and either or, where we're stuck either in heaven or in hell. But rather there are places that are transitory and not regional sections in the universe, but rather linked to our mental state. And we can, through our own merit and our own inner work, always move on from them, from whatever stage we find ourselves on the other side. And lastly, he wrote the book Genesis, which explains more or less the formation of the world and a lot more. How did the name Allan Kardec come about now? Professor Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rival was known by his publications on arithmetic, geometry, and translations. At the suggestion of the spirits, he decided to use the pseudonym Allan Kardec to differentiate the spiritual work from his previously published books. Allan Kardec is the name that he had in a previous life in France. When he was a Druid priest, the Druids were a kind of wise monks and Celtic folks who lived thousands of years ago in Europe. So with this, we conclude our gathering for today. And I'm seeing that there are some beautiful friends who joined us. Let me look. The reason why I'm looking down on you is because of my age. I have bifocals, so what I need to do is raise my head to look down to be able to read them. So I'm saying hi to Corina Alice Oliveira, which is beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm also seeing Adilson was watching. Hello, Adilson. Then there's Hipólito Rebolo. Sorry, I'm not Brazilian. I might be mispronouncing your names. And hello everyone I'm from Brazil. God bless you. Thank you, Hipólito, for joining. What a blessing. Vanessa, thank you so much for all your support, and thank you for listening as well. What an honor. And Hipólito also says, hello everyone, I'm from Brazil, and again, God bless us. Then there is Lise, hello from Texas. And Carol Correa is watching. So many blessings. Thank you so much. And also Rihanna, hello. I am so grateful to being here and hoping that I was able to explain to you a little bit more about the origins of Spiritism. Next week we will be focusing on God, and we'll be finding out more of what is God. So please stay tuned next week, Monday, 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, right here at Kardec Radio, which is also live streamed on the podcasts. There is an app, there is a website, there's a lot of information for you. So please tune in and listen to Kardec Radio. With so many blessings, I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.